hip internal rotation can be a pesky range of motion for people to try to establish new patterns, new ranges of motion and control into. A lot of it comes down to where the person has an opportunity to capture safe ranges of motion that will lead them into better outcomes. One of the positions that some people might need to opt for is back up against the wall and sitting in a bear position, or even just allowing one leg to stay a little more rested as this leg starts to drop into internal rotation. One of the things to keep in mind is that we don't want to feel like jamming sensations into the front of the hip. If that's the case, this is definitely not an option for you. And I think I'm a really good example to show how limited range of motion can look when somebody's dropping into internal rotation for its own isolated range. Like, we're just thinking about how that joint is capable of rotating in the socket and coming across the pelvis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let my leg drop down this direction. I'm going to try to capture a stretching sensation on the outside part of my pocket in my hip here. Once I'm there, I now found this range. And the reason why I'm sitting on a yoga block is because when I'm on the floor, that jams me. So I need to elevate my body in order to be in a better spot to capture internal rotation, true hip internal rotation. So in order to improve this range of motion, my body needs to learn it. And one of the processes is staying here for roughly 2 minutes and allowing yourself to sink and stretch into that position. I can pin myself here with my leg up, and I'm just allowing this arm, my left arm, to assist me into that stretch. So now that 2 minutes is up, I'm going to start to drive my leg up and out into my hand to contract the tissues that are now lengthened. So to start establishing these ranges of motion, I'm going to create a lot of pressure in my body, tension in my hand, tension in my core, and I'm going to start pushing out into my hand through my knee. And I'm going to slowly turn that dial up to about a 50 to 75% effort to where I'm actually trying. And I get a little shaky. Now I'm there, and I'm going to hold this for 10 to 15 seconds. After the 10 to 15 seconds is up, I'm going to actively use the inside musculature to pull me down into a deeper range of motion. So I'm thinking this part of my knee is going to get away from my hand and just contract, known as a rails contraction, and hold for 10 to 15 seconds again, keeping things stiff and tight in the rest of my body. And then when I return into a stretch, I'm going to stretch again for 2 minutes. I'm just going to allow my hand to rest there, and I'm going to just slowly relax everything else. When I come out of this drill, it's important to move slowly. If this is rough on your knee, it's rough on your hip, you're feeling the jam, a really good option would to be feet up on the wall in a 90-degree position. So it looks something like this. So in order for me to get that leg to come across, a nice thing to do is to assist the stretch by using this leg. I'm going to lift my hips up, drop my hips down, and then use this leg to pull my hip down into internal rotation and capture a stretch on the outside of my hip or kind of underneath near my hamstring. And what you'll be feeling there is the hip capsule. So again, I repeat that 2-minute stretch. Something to keep in mind is you'll see, like, when I start to pull too far, you'll see this side of my body, it wants to really show the rest of my pelvis, and that's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to rotate the spine. We're trying to be true to the range of the motion that you actually have in order to improve upon them. So if you can only move your leg this far, that's how far it goes. If you can move it further, like a 1/4 of an inch, that's how far it goes, and that's how far mine goes. And so this is where I would choose to improve from. I personally like to be in this position when I'm really trying to capture more hip internal rotation.